I never imagined I'd wake up bald the day before my sister's wedding. But that morning, as my fingers brushed over my scalp, I felt jagged patches where my long auburn hair used to be. On the floor, golden strands were scattered like some kind of sacrifice. And in the doorway, my mother Margaret stood holding a pair of scissors, calm as ever, like this was just another chore on her to-do list. My name is Brielle, and what you're about to hear isn't a story about hair. It's about family, favoritism, and what happens when years of quiet betrayal finally snap into something irreversible. My sister, Sabrina, is getting married tomorrow, and apparently, the only way to let her shine was to make sure I was completely destroyed. Before I tell you what I did next, you need to understand what led my own parents to turn a pair of scissors into a weapon. Growing up, everyone thought we were the perfect suburban family. White picket fence, 2 successful parents, summer vacations in Florida, and 2 daughters who balanced each other out. That's what people always said. Sabrina was the smart one. I was the pretty one. That wasn't how we described ourselves, it was how our parents labeled us. And once those labels stuck, nothing we did could change them. I loved learning. I worked hard in school, aced my exams, stayed up late doing extra credit. But when I brought home a perfect report card, Mom barely glanced at it. "That's great, Brielle," she'd say with a distracted tone. "But did you hear? Sabrina made it into the science fair finals. At the district level. It was always like that. When I won a statewide poetry contest in 7th grade, I remember racing home with the certificate in my hand. My dad, Gregory, didn't even look up from his laptop. "That's cute," he said. "Hey, did you know Sabrina's teacher nominated her for a gifted student program?" Cute. That's what my achievements were. But Sabrina? Sabrina was exceptional, gifted, important. I don't think she asked to be treated like the golden child at first. As kids, we were close enough, shared a room, made up silly dances, whispered under the covers during thunderstorms. But over time, something shifted. Every time I was praised for how I looked, I'd see her tense, and every time she was praised for something she accomplished, my mother would look at me with that tight smile, the kind that meant, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" I tried. I really did. But in our house, substance belonged to Sabrina, and image? That was all I was good for. When I got my first internship in college at a top design firm in downtown Chicago, was so excited. I called home to tell my parents. My dad said, "Nice. Did they hire you because of your looks or your resume?" He laughed like it was a joke. I didn't. Even Sabrina picked up the habit. "You're lucky," she'd say during family dinners. "People always like you because you're pretty. I have to work for everything I get." But I was working, too. Behind the scenes, always striving for approval I never received. When I bought my first car with money I saved from 3 jobs, my mum's only reaction was, "You should have asked Sabrina to help you negotiate. You're too soft-spoken." I wasn't soft. I was tired. Tired of dimming my light so Sabrina could shine uninterrupted. Tired of being told I was too much when I wore red lipstick or curled my hair. Tired of apologizing for existing in a body that my mother resented and my sister envied. And yet, I kept showing up. I kept playing the role. The agreeable daughter. The peacemaker. The one who smiled through the cuts. Because a part of me still hoped, if I were kind enough, useful enough, invisible enough, they'd finally let me just be me. But looking back, now sitting here with my hair in ruins and my heart cracked open, I realized something. They never wanted me to be me. They only ever wanted me to play the part they wrote for me. And the moment I outgrew that role, they decided to cut me down literally. When Sabrina got engaged, it was like the entire household shifted into orbit around her. She had only been dating Jackson for 6 months, a polished corporate lawyer from a wealthy family with a name that carried weight in country clubs and real estate circles. The kind of guy my parents had dreamed Sabrina would marry since she was 12. And once that ring was on her finger, nothing else mattered. Not birthdays, not holidays, not even my promotion at work. Everything became the wedding. At first, I tried to be supportive. I really did. I offered to help with the invitations. I went cake tasting with her. I even used my graphic design skills to create personalized thank you cards that matched her theme perfectly. But each time I contributed something thoughtful, Sabrina would flinch as if my effort was a threat, not a gift. "You're just doing this to show me up," she muttered once, holding one of the cards I'd made. "You always were better at the artsy stuff." I stared at her, stunned. "I thought you'd like them." "Yeah, well, maybe tone it down? This is my wedding." Her words stung more than they should have, because it wasn't the first time. At her engagement party, I wore a black dress, simple, elegant, nothing flashy. I tied my hair back in a bun and barely wore makeup. I stayed near the drinks table, pouring wine for our relatives, smiling in the background. I thought I had finally found the sweet spot between showing up and fading out. Until I overheard my mum in the kitchen with Aunt Renee. "Brielle is trying to behave, but you know how men always look at her. She should wear something less flattering for the wedding," Renee offered. "Or sit at the front with her back to the crowd. That way she won't be in the photos." I stood there, gripping the wine bottle so tight I thought it would shatter. The bridal shower was worse. I spent hours hand-making flower arrangements, lavender, peonies, and soft white roses. Everyone loved them, especially Jackson's mother. "You really have a gift for this, Brielle," she told me kindly. Later, I found Sabrina crying in the bathroom. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you?" she snapped. "What?" I blinked. "I was just trying to make it beautiful for you." "Well, stop. Everyone's talking about your flowers instead of my gifts." She wasn't jealous of what I had. She was jealous of who I was, who I had always been, no matter how hard I tried to disappear. Even the dress fitting turned into a battleground. The bridesmaid dress I was assigned, a size too big, with a shapeless silhouette that drowned me. I asked gently if I could exchange it. "No," Sabrina said firmly. "I already placed the order, and it's more modest anyway. We don't want any distractions." Distractions. That's what I was now. Not her sister, not a bridesmaid. A potential PR hazard on her big day. By the time the rehearsal dinner rolled around, I had stopped trying. I wore a navy blue dress that did nothing for my figure, left my hair unstyled, and didn't wear more than tinted lip balm. I sat at the far end of the table and barely spoke. But somehow, even silence was a problem. Jackson's brother Ethan was seated next to me. Kind, observant, and maybe a little too attentive. "You and Sabrina don't look much alike," he said during dinner. "You're both beautiful, just in different ways." I smiled politely. "Sabrina's the real beauty in the family." He shook his head. "You have something effortless. Your hair is like something out of a magazine." My stomach tightened, because I knew someone else had overheard that. My mother. She was watching from across the table, her expression unreadable. And in that moment, something told me I had made a mistake by showing up at all. After the rehearsal dinner, I returned to my childhood bedroom feeling like a ghost of myself. I had said nothing wrong. I had worn the dress they wanted. I had tried to be invisible. And yet, the way my mother looked at me across the table, calculated, assessing, sent a chill down my spine. I didn't want to sleep. Not because I knew what was coming, but because I felt the kind of exhaustion that no amount of rest could cure, the kind that comes from being unwanted in your own family. Still, before retreating to bed, I decided to do something foolish. I brewed a cup of herbal tea, Sabrina's favorite blend, and walked down the hallway to her room. She looked surprised when she opened the door. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes a little red. Maybe from crying, maybe from anxiety, Maybe from guilt I couldn't yet recognize. Hey, I said softly. Can we talk? She didn't speak, just stepped aside to let me in. We sat on her bed like we used to as teenagers, legs crossed, fingers playing with the edge of the blanket. There was something unfamiliar in the silence between us, but not entirely hostile. Maybe even human. I'm nervous about tomorrow, she admitted, voice thin. What if I'm not good enough for Jackson? I blinked. Are you serious? You're everything he's ever wanted. He adores you. She looked away. Sometimes I think, you were always the one everyone liked. I had to try harder. That confession landed like a stone between us. All these years of rivalry, of accusations and sharp-edged words, and now, she was revealing the insecurity beneath it all. I never wanted to compete with you, I said truthfully. I just wanted to be seen. By Mom? By Dad? By you? Her eyes shimmered. I know. I'm sorry. And for one fragile moment, I believed her. She hugged me before I left. Thanks for being here, Brielle. I'm glad you're going to stand next to me tomorrow. I went to sleep that night with a small, dangerous flicker of hope in my chest. Maybe we were turning a corner. Maybe, once she was married, she wouldn't feel the need to push me down just to stand taller. I even imagined us laughing someday about all this. How silly it had been. How unnecessary the jealousy was. But hope has a sharp edge. And the deeper you carry it, the more it can wound you when it snaps. The first thing I felt was something brushing against my face. Still tangled in half sleep, I reached up, expecting a loose strand of hair, but what I pulled away was a thick lock, and when I sat up fully alert, now more hair fell to my lap. Then I saw her, my mother, Margot, standing at the end of my bed, holding a pair of silver scissors. My heart dropped. All I could say was, "What did you do?" She looked at me calm, composed, and said, "What needed to be done?" I didn't scream. I couldn't. It was like my voice had been stolen the moment I saw the scissors in my mother's hand. I reached up again, fingers trembling, brushing across my scalp, and this time I felt the unevenness. Some areas were almost bare, others still had tufts dangling like shredded ribbons. It was no haircut. It was a hack job. A mutilation. My long auburn hair, my one sanctuary, my one pride was gone. Why? I finally managed, my voice raw. Why would you do this to me? My mother exhaled like I had asked something so painfully obvious. This isn't about you, Brielle, she said calmly, still holding the scissors like she might return for round 2. It's about Sabrina. She deserves one perfect day. One day where she's not compared to her little sister's looks. You've stolen too many of her moments already. Stolen. Like beauty was theft. Like existing was a crime. My father appeared in the doorway then, arms crossed, face unreadable. She needs to learn her place, he said quietly. You've been drawing attention since you were a child. Always had to be the center of everything. It's time to stop. I stood shaking, disoriented, and stumbled toward the mirror. The girl looking back at me was barely recognizable. Patches of scalp peeked through where waves used to flow. Strands stuck out in random lengths. It was brutal, violent. I turned back to them. This is abuse. My mother's expression tightened. Don't be dramatic. It's just hair. It'll grow back. And maybe now you'll learn some humility. I rushed to grab my phone from the nightstand, but it was gone. Where is it? I demanded. We've put it somewhere safe until after the wedding, she said coolly. You're not going to ruin this for your sister with hysterics and attention-seeking. You drugged me? I gasped, suddenly nauseous at the thought. Is that how I didn't wake up? My dad shrugged. You were exhausted. Stress. Don't flatter yourself. No one needed to drug you. The gaslighting was dizzying. I staggered to the bathroom and slammed the door, locking it. I sank to the tile floor, back against the door, fists clenched, sobs strangling in my throat. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be real. But the jagged reflection in the mirror said otherwise. And when I looked down, I saw specks of blood-tiny cuts where the scissors had dug too close. It wasn't a makeover. It was a message. Know your place. I don't remember how long I stayed in that bathroom. Hours, maybe. At some point, I tried to wrap a towel around my head like a turban, anything to hide the mess. But when I opened the door to peek into the hallway, I saw my suitcase had been emptied. All scarves, hats, accessories gone. They had planned this. They had thought of everything. At noon, a knock came. "Brielle? It's me," Sabrina's voice. "Can I come in?" I didn't want to see her. Didn't want her pity. Or worse, her satisfaction. But I opened the door. Her face went pale when she saw me. "Oh my God. Ask Mom," I snapped before she could fake sympathy. "She did this while I was sleeping." She hesitated, and in that pause, I knew. She wasn't shocked. Not really. "Well, that was extreme," she said carefully. "But maybe it's for the best." I stared at her. "You knew." Her eyes darted to the floor. "You always get attention for your hair," she muttered. "I just wanted my wedding to be about me. For once." I stepped back like she'd slapped me. "I'm not coming tomorrow," I said flatly. "Find another bridesmaid." Her face hardened. "You absolutely are. If you don't show up, Mom and Dad will cut you off. No help with your lease. No references for work. Nothing." I laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "You'd let them blackmail me after this?" "It's just hair, Brielle," she snapped. "Stop acting like it's the end of the world." The moment she walked out, something inside me shifted. No more apologies. No more hoping they'd change. No more making myself small. I would go to that wedding. But not for them. I'd go to watch them choke on their own perfection. And I'd make sure that whatever they thought they'd won was the beginning of what they were about to lose. Morning came like a sentence. At 6:00 a.m., there was a knock at my bedroom door. "Up and at 'em," my mother sang. "Big day ahead." I didn't answer. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hands clenched over the shredded remains of my hair. Whatever pain I'd felt the night before had calcified into something harder, colder. I got up and opened the door. Margot stood there already dressed, flawless as always, as if she hadn't butchered her daughter's hair in her sleep just hours earlier. "The stylist will be here at 7, she said cheerfully. "We've scheduled an emergency appointment. Marina's great with shortcuts." Shortcuts? She said it like it was a cute little accident. When Marina arrived, she froze the moment she saw me. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What happened?" Before I could speak, my mother stepped in smoothly. "Brielle had a little gum incident. Tried to cut it out herself. Teenage impulse, you know. Can you help us even it out?" I sat silently, letting Marina assess the damage. To her credit, she did her best. But there's only so much you can do when half a head of hair has been hacked to the scalp. By the end, I had a pixie cut so short my ears and the back of my neck felt exposed to air, like never before. It wasn't ugly, but it wasn't mine. "I'm sorry," Marina murmured as she packed up. "I did all I could." "It's not your fault," I said, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "But if anyone asks, tell the truth, please." She gave a faint nod in unspoken solidarity. Then came makeup. The artist tried to contour my face, add some warmth, maybe even draw attention away from the haircut. But my mother intervened. "No, no," she said quickly. "Keep it very natural. Just powder and lip balm. We don't want anything distracting." I wanted to laugh. She'd already made sure there was nothing left that could possibly distract anyone from Sabrina. The bridesmaid dress, of course, still didn't fit. I was swimming in it, lavender, shapeless, 2 sizes too big. It felt like a costume meant to erase me. By the time we arrived at the church, I looked like a washed-out afterthought in someone else's story. And the story was hers. Sabrina descended the aisle in a designer gown, every curl in place, every guest sighing in awe. I stood with the bridesmaids, bouquet clutched tightly in my hand, aware of the way people whispered behind their programs. Their eyes flicked toward me and quickly looked away. What happened to her? Is that Brielle? Something's wrong with her hair. I kept my chin high and said nothing. During photos, the photographer kept gently steering me to the back row. Let's do a few without Brielle, just to have options, my mother offered smoothly. No one objected. At the reception, I found myself seated alone at a table far from the bridal party, next to a ficus plant and a half-empty water pitcher. I didn't eat. I didn't toast. I didn't smile. And still, the rumors flew. She had a breakdown, my aunt whispered. She cut her hair because Sabrina was getting too much attention, another cousin murmured. I always knew she was unstable, my father told someone near the bar. She's always needed things to be about her. It was like watching my own funeral in real time. Except I wasn't dead. Not yet. Then a chair pulled out beside me. It was Ethan Jackson's brother. You didn't do this to yourself, did you? He asked softly. The question broke something in me. I shook my head. That was all I could manage. His eyes darkened. That's messed up. You still look beautiful, you know. Not in spite of what they did, because of how you're standing through it. His words didn't fix anything, but they reminded me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. I didn't belong to them anymore. As the room swirled with clinking glasses and curated smiles, I began to think not just about survival, but about justice. And suddenly, I didn't feel powerless at all. It was during the father-daughter dance that everything clicked. I stood in the back of the ballroom, just outside the chandelier's warm glow, watching Gregory twirl Sabrina in her custom gown. He beamed with pride, his voice clear through the microphone as he toasted her virtues. To our brilliant, beautiful Sabrina star, the daughter who always carried herself with grace, humility, and honor. His gaze flicked toward me, barely noticeable, but sharp. Some daughters seek attention through drama, but Sabrina shines through substance. There it was, the public gut punch, the final, deliberate humiliation. They had stripped me of everything they could, my hair, my dignity, even my seat at the table. But what they didn't know, they had also stripped away my fear. I slipped out of the ballroom and into the hallway, my mind racing, my hands steady. For the first time in days, I felt awake. This wasn't going to end in silence. They wanted to control how the world saw me? I would show them what real control looked like. My first step? Escape. My phone was still hidden, my car keys gone. But someone had offered help, someone with kind eyes and, more importantly, no allegiance to my family. I found Ethan near the dance floor, talking with a groomsman. He smiled when he saw me. Need some fresh air? He asked, already sensing what I wanted. More than that, I whispered. I need a ride. He didn't hesitate. Let's go. In his car, I explained just enough. My parents. They took my phone. My keys. They're trying to isolate me. I just need to pick up a few things. That's all. He didn't push. He just nodded. 30 minutes. Tell me where to go. We drove to a 24-hour pharmacy downtown. Under the cold fluorescent lights, I grabbed exactly what I needed. A bottle of clear, heat-activated itching powder solution, a travel sewing kit, medical gloves, travel-sized toiletries, a cheap external drive. Ethan watched me at checkout, curiosity flickering in his eyes, but he didn't ask. On the way back, he finally said, "Whatever they did, I believe you. And whatever you're planning, make it count." I smiled for the first time that day. "Oh, I will." Back at the venue, I returned just in time for the bouquet toss. Sabrina made sure I wasn't included. While the guests were distracted, I approached Sarathi, wedding coordinator still, bustling with her clipboard and earpiece. Sabrina asked me to set up a surprise in the bridal suite for Jackson. "Romantic touches, nothing major," I said sweetly. "Can I grab the key for 10 minutes? She hesitated. "Usually, the bride has to approve. She wants it to be a secret. You know how she is about gestures looking effortless." Sarah chuckled. "Oh, totally. Okay, just bring it right back." Key in hand, I slipped away. Inside the bridal suite, everything was pristine. Rose petals, candles, monogrammed pillowcases. Perfect. I started with the lingerie laid out on the bed. Using gloves, I treated the lace with a light coating of the clear solution. It would dry invisible, scentless, completely undetectable until it came into contact with body heat. Next, the honeymoon suitcase. I selected just a few key items: Sabrina's silk pajamas, 2 swimsuits, a few of Jackson's t-shirts, and treated them too. Then I found their travel folder. Inside were the first-class plane tickets to Bali. I took photos of everything. I had plans for those too, but not tonight. Finally, I pulled a small USB audio recorder from my purse borrowed from the AV room and tucked it beneath the bed frame, just to see what might unfold. As I returned the key to Sarah, she smiled. "Did you get everything set up?" I nodded. "They'll never forget it." Back inside the reception, I felt different. Not invisible, not defeated, but powerful. Sabrina and Margot wanted a perfect wedding. They got one. But what came next would be mine to orchestrate. And best of all, no one would be able to trace a single thread of it back to me. I didn't sleep at home that night. I booked a quiet room at a hotel across the city, using a friend's phone paid in cash. No digital trail. The moment I closed the door behind me, I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I opened my laptop and began. This wasn't revenge fueled by rage. This was retribution guided by clarity. Step 1. Sabotage the flight. I took the photos I'd snapped of their first-class honeymoon tickets and digitally altered the departure time, pushing it 3 hours later. Then I emailed the new copies to the hotel concierge under the name of the wedding party's planner. "With compliments from the bride's sister," I wrote. "Surprise them in the morning." They'd show up at the airport with confidence, only to learn their flight had left without them. Their luggage? Already on the plane. Step 2. Social image collapse. Sabrina had never been careful with her passwords. Still using our childhood dog's name combined with her birthday. Pathetic. I logged into her Instagram and scheduled a series of honeymoon posts. Unflattering close-ups. Awkward angles. Overly smug captions. One of them featured her blinking mid-laugh, captioned, "Feeling like the most beautiful bride in history. Sorry to all other brides who tried." It was just tone-deaf enough to be believable, especially coming from someone who lived for attention but lacked self-awareness. I timed them to go live slowly, 2 per day, while they were off the grid. No chance to stop them in time. Step 3. Career checkmate. I'd always known Sabrina embellished her resume, so I dug. Sure enough, her graduation date didn't match the records I found in the public alumni registry. Her GPA was inflated. I composed an anonymous email to her firm's HR director. "Dear HR manager, as someone concerned with professional integrity, I thought you should be aware of inconsistencies in Sabrina Morgan's academic history. Attached is documentation from the university confirming her actual records. Respectfully, a friend of accountability." Subtle, civil, but enough to spark an internal investigation. By the time I was done, the room was still and dark. But inside me, something had settled. A stillness. I wasn't spinning in grief or betrayal anymore. I was focused. They thought they'd broken me. But what they did cutting my hair, stealing my voice had freed me instead. I turned off the lights and finally slept, undisturbed by dreams. The next morning, 8:43 a.m. A message popped up in the bridesmaids group chat. From Sabrina. Emergency. Our tickets are messed up. Airport says departure is at 10:00, but the airline has us for 1:00. Luggage already gone. Jackson is furious. 1. I smiled. 9:17 a.m. Another message. Also, I'm itchy AF. Anyone else break out in a rash last night? No replies. 10:02 a.m. Yet another. Did someone mess with my Instagram? WHY, is there a picture of me chewing mid-bite online? Who posted that? Meanwhile, whispers began swirling back home. Marina, the hairstylist, had been horrified when she saw me and she didn't keep quiet. She mentioned to 2 guests that Brielle definitely didn't cut her own hair. By afternoon, my cousin Rachel texted me. Is it true what they did to you? That your mom? I didn't answer directly. Just replied. Let's just say they don't like when I'm noticed. Let them guess. Let them piece it together. Sometimes the truth spreads faster when left unconfirmed. 3 days into the honeymoon, I got a call. It was Ethan. I don't know exactly what you did, he said carefully. But Jackson just called my parents screaming. Their trip's a disaster. Your sister has some weird rash. Their luggage got held. Her boss called with questions, and she's in full breakdown mode. I didn't gloat. I just said, sometimes people need a mirror held to their actions. He paused. You held up a mirror and added fire. Then he chuckled. I'm back in town next week. Want to grab coffee? I smiled, for real this time. Yeah, I said. I think I'd like that. 1 month after the wedding, I met my parents at a neutral cafe near downtown. It was their idea. Just to clear the air, my father said. But I knew better. They didn't want resolution. They wanted containment. The rumors had spread farther than they anticipated thanks to Marina, thanks to whispers at the reception, thanks to the way people had watched me walk down that aisle looking like a ghost. They didn't want to apologize. They wanted me quiet. I arrived 5 minutes late, wearing a sleek black coat, my new bob tucked behind my ears. I looked sharp, intact, not their scapegoat anymore. They looked tired, thinner, my mother's hands twisted in her lap, my father's jaw clenched as if bracing for confrontation. We've heard some things, he started. Rumors, my mother added quickly. About your hair, about the wedding. It's damaging our reputation. I took a sip of coffee, then looked them both in the eye. It's not a rumor, I said calmly. You cut my hair while I was sleeping. That happened. My mother flushed. We were trying to help you. No, I corrected. You were trying to erase me, so Sabrina wouldn't feel threatened. My father scowled. You can't just shut us out. We're your family. I leaned forward. I can, and I am. I've taken a new job in Portland. I move next week. I've signed a lease. On my own. No co-signers, no favors, no more strings. You're overreacting, he said through his teeth. I have audio recordings, I replied softly. From the morning after the wedding, of both of you admitting what you did. If I ever hear that you've spread lies about me again or tried to interfere in my life, I will release them. Publicly. The silence between us tightened like a noose. You wouldn't, my mother whispered. Try me, I said, standing. You created this version of me. Now you get to live with her. And I walked out. Not looking back. Not once. My new life began quietly. Portland was rainy, grey, soft around the edges, perfect for healing. I rented a small studio near the river. My job was demanding but fair. My team respected me for my ideas, not my appearance. No one knew my family. No one cared who Sabrina was. It was like finally breathing clean air after years of second-hand poison. I started therapy, weekly sessions. At first, we only talked about the haircut, the humiliation, the betrayal. But soon, we traced back farther. To every moment I'd been told to tone it down, to every compliment turned insult, to every time I'd been told beauty was both my power and my curse. You were punished for what they couldn't control, my therapist said. Your light, your presence. So they tried to clip your wings. Funny thing is, when they finally succeeded, it only made me realize I could fly on my own. Ethan and I stayed in touch. He texted. I replied. We joked. We checked in. 3 months after the wedding, he flew out to visit. He brought flowers and no assumptions. I just wanted to see how you're doing, he said as we walked along the riverbank one foggy morning. Better, I answered truthfully. Not healed, but no longer bleeding. We had dinner that night. Then another. Then a weekend trip. Then he asked if we could try being more than pen pals. And for the first time in a very long time, I said yes without fear. Back home, the fallout from my silence spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. Sabrina's job launched an internal investigation. She kept it quiet, but word spread. Her social media engagement dropped. People began unfollowing quietly, sensing something performative behind the perfection. At Christmas, my mother sent me a card with a 100 salon gift certificate, and the message, "Let's put the past behind us. Family is everything." I didn't reply. Because family, real family, doesn't cut you down to make someone else shine. 6 months later, my hair had grown into a soft, textured bob. Stylish, modern, mine. I looked in the mirror one morning, ran my fingers through the new layers, and smiled. The old Meetha girl who stayed quiet, who played small, who hoped for approval that never came, she was gone. In her place stood someone rebuilt, not broken. Someone who no longer feared attention or rejection. Someone who chose herself every single time. 1 year after the wedding, I received a long email from Sabrina. No blame. No excuses. Just this. I know what we did was wrong. I can't undo it. But I think about it every day. I'm in therapy now. It's messy, but I'm trying. I understand if you never speak to me again, but I needed to say this. I read it. Twice. And then replied with a single sentence. Thank you for acknowledging the harm. That's a first step. That was all I owed her. Ethan proposed one rainy Sunday afternoon in a Portland bookstore. He didn't get down on one knee. He just held my hand and said, I want to build something with you. Something honest. Something we never got to see growing up. I said yes. Not out of desperation, but because I knew I could stand alone and still chose to stand beside him. Our wedding was small. No family invitations. Just chosen ones. Friends. Community. People who saw me. Not the role I used to play. And the night before that ceremony, as I stood before the mirror, brushing the ends of my new hair, I whispered to my reflection, you made it. Not just through betrayal, but into a life that was finally, truly, beautifully yours. Because when they cut my hair, they thought they were cutting away my power. What they didn't realize was, they were setting me free.